It kind of reminded me of like in Boy Meets World where she turns down Yale for Corey. And I'm just like, I need these women to
Mm.
stop turning down their dreams for mediocre men.
Yeah, yeah. Hello, Cozy Detectives, and welcome to the Blanket Fort Files. I'm Joy,
And I'm Larissa.
and we're here to report on all things comfy and cozy. Happy Blanket Fort Day!
So true. So needed. I'm glad to be back in the blanket fort with you. I feel like it's been forever.
I know. Okay, so the thing I didn't want to say, we were talking. We always like talk for like a split second before, and I feel like we say this at the beginning of every episode. But I'm like holding stuff to not talk about till
So
we're on the
excited.
pod, to be able to talk with Cozy Detectives. I didn't see the interview, but did you see that Lauren Graham said? I saw a clip of it. She was on some morning show. I can't think of what it's called. It used to be like Regis and Kelly, but it's not that anymore. But
Oh,
she was on that
promoting
talk
her
show.
Christmas movie, right?
Yeah, and she said that she's planning on spending Christmas in London this year. I was like, oh, I love London at Christmas.
I
This is
know.
so fun.
To be in London at Christmas time with Lauren Graham.
I know. She
Amazing.
said she's going to, what did she say? She said she's going to some showing of like Bluey or some showing of, there was some show that she said, and I was like, oh my word, that'd be so fun. You're just like, I also gonna go see this show. It's like with her niece or
Right.
something like that. I was like,
Or if
that's
you're
so
in the
cool.
audience and you look over and there's Lauren
Yeah.
Graham. Oh
That's
my
what I'm saying.
gosh.
That would be so crazy. But we yeah, I had the opportunity once to be in London around Christmas time. It was like just after. It's like that. It was that like kind of like wobbly week after Christmas. And I'll tell you what, it is so freaking pretty. I didn't do any of the ice skating, but I did accidentally go to that street that has the angels like above.
Oh,
It was
Regency.
wide.
Is it Regency
Yeah.
Regent? One of
I
the
don't
two.
know.
I'll have to look it up. It's gonna bother me.
But I was there and it was so pretty. And I was like, I probably look like super tourist, but I was like,
I know it's so. I know the
so
like
excited.
Christmas markets. Oh, love
Yeah.
it. Oh
Yeah, I
yes,
got yelled at.
Regent Street.
Regent Street. There you
Mm-hmm.
go. I got yelled at for sitting on, well, it's like so obvious, but in my brain, I didn't think about it, where there's Tower Bridge and then London Bridge, where
Mm-hmm.
like the two, like, and in between, there's like the walkway. They had a Christmas market. So we were like, oh, Christmas
Oh,
market.
I know the
And I was like,
exact
I want
market
to
you're
take,
talking about
yeah.
too.
I was like, I want to go take a photo. And so I saw somebody else sitting on the like railing thing. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll sit on it. And then the like, I don't know if they were police or whoever they were, but they were just like, get off of that. And I was like, my brain didn't catch, like, why can't I sit on this? And then I was like, oh, because if I fall backwards, I'm in the water. I was like, getting
Oh
off of this real
no.
quick.
Yeah.
I just was so excited in the Christmas spirit. I
Oh,
just didn't think about
and
it.
they do it so well there. That kind
Right.
of reminded me. I don't remember which bridge. Obviously, they have a million there. But the last time we were there, we were walking across a bridge and someone came up to us and asked for directions. And we were just like, they think
So
we're
excited.
locals. We got so excited. And like we talked about it for like the next hour of like, oh my God, he thought
We
we
look
were
like we're British.
local.
It's
And
my
then
favorite thing
yeah,
when
but
someone
then
does
us like
things.
freaking out over it. I was like, oh no, we're still tourists.
I love it. I love that. That happened to me. Like, this is years ago at this point, but I got to visit. I'm just like shedding everywhere. It's that season. I got to visit Yale campus,
Mm-hmm.
and I was walking around, and I was the person where I was like, I'm not gonna have a map because they'll know I'm a tourist. So we're just like moseying, and a mom and a daughter came up to us and was like, do you know where this building is? And I actually did, because we had just been to that building. So I was like, yeah, you're
Wow.
gonna go down and take a left, and then they walked away, and I was like, they think I go here. Yeah.
Little bulldog joy.
I know. I was so excited. I was like, I am Rory Gilmore.
Oh my gosh,
But there's no more
perfect.
Lorelai
That's
than
so
Rory.
funny.
But I was so excited. But yes, I have one other random Instagram fell down the rabbit hole update. But what else has happened in your week, minus your 2% cozy, which I'm excited to hear about. But
Yes.
it's
Well,
exciting.
this episode, we're actually getting a little closer to when these episodes are coming out,
Mm-hmm.
but Joy and I are like, we got to get back ahead of schedule in our metaverse of the blanket fort. But it is early November for us. And so that means starting to put up my Christmas trees and all of those
Yay!
fun things. So trying to get more in the holiday spirit lately.
Yay! I know I meant to put up mine, but I didn't, so it's still fall in the background, but that is my plan. There is, like, a whole 2 feet of snow made the
Yeah, I was gonna
news.
ask you about
Woo.
that. Is
Yeah.
that normal for this time of year for you guys, or is it pretty early?
So I've heard conflicting things. So for me, this feels abnormal because since I've lived here, it's been pretty tame in weather wise. But I have a lot of people that have been here that I know that have been here like since childhood. And they're like, well, this kind of feels more like their childhood type of snow
Mm,
where it can like crazy go aggressive. And then it just like all of this week is not supposed to snow at all. So I'm kind of grateful because I'm like, I need to start driving places because I've just been a little homebody for the last
right.
quite a few days. So I don't know. I think for me it feels abnormal, but I think in like the 20-year time period of stuff, it's more normal. I think it just kind of like flip flops like
Yeah.
that. But yes, I will say it's very pretty. I haven't gone outside because I feel like once it the cold snaps, I just like I feel like I fight like viruses at the beginning.
Mhm.
And so I've just been hiding inside and not going outside, which lends me to my update.
Please,
Okay,
I wanna
cozy
hear.
detectives and Larissa. I feel like I really want this thing and I have not gotten it because I don't know. I fell down the rabbit hole and now like my entire for you suggested page is this. I clicked on one of those now I can't even think of the word. It's like slime. I clicked on one of those videos where they're like
Oh.
scooping and then they like
Oh,
it
they're
looks
right
so
by the
yeah.
scoopability of my slide. I
Yeah.
get
So I
those
clicked
too.
on one of those and then that it just like the Instagram like grabbed me. Now I'm like, oh, that looks like so fun to like play with. And like the only thing that I don't understand, if you are a slime lover, let me know, is there's some slimes that you buy and then they come with like toppings. So it'll be like hot cocoa and then
Mhm.
you get like marshmallows you're supposed to like blend into the slime. And I think that would bug me because I'm like, I'm just messing up all the textures and consistencies of this.
Yeah, I've
So
I've seen some where it's like a whole baking kit where you get the flour,
yeah.
the eggs, all of the ingredients are slime, and you mix it together to form like this new slime? I don't know, that kinda
Mhm.
trips me out, and I'll see some, and
Yeah.
they're, like, hyper realistic, and it's just weird.
Yeah, I saw one that was like a French toast or something like that, and I
Mhm.
swear it looked like toast. Like they like even like painted the outside of it. So that's the rabbit hole I've been down this week while I've been hiding inside. But it looks interesting. I haven't gotten it yet because the one thing I can't do is if you love this, I'm sorry, but I cannot do the water slime because it
Mm.
looks like you can't like play with it. You're supposed to like slap it and I'm like that's not my vibe. I can't do that.
Yeah,
That's not my
I have trouble kind of wrapping my head around how it stays together, it just seems like
right.
it bloop, bloop, bloops all over the place.
Yeah. So that's what I've been looking up, and I haven't pulled the trigger on any of the like purchases yet because I can't figure out the consistency that I like. And I don't think I would like it with all the stuff in it because there's some that just come like filled with like
Yeah.
I don't know all these extras, and I'm like, oh my word, that feels overwhelming. So I
That
haven't
watch,
done
that's gonna be your 2% next week of like, "Look at all my slimes I got."
I know. I looked up like what is it called? Like recipes for slime.
Oh,
And
cute.
so I've thought about like it's like Elmer's glue and like other stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, like
So I was like,
contact
maybe I'll
solution or
make
something.
it. Yeah. I was like, maybe I'll make slime. But then I have another DIY I want to make that will probably end up being a 2% of like air dry clay. What is it called? Like the like gifting tags where you can like put people's
Oh,
names in it. And I was like,
mhm,
that's so
cute.
cute.
Yeah,
So
'cause you
that
still
is
have a lot
my
left,
list.
right?
I have so much left. It's in the cabinet, so I can't get it, but I have so much left. But I still have my little where are they? I don't know where my little blueberry is, but he's around here
Aw.
somewhere. I kept him on my desk because he made me happy, and now I can't
Aw,
find him. Oh, here's my toast. Found it. Got it. Crisis averted. So here we go. My little toasty toast. I was gonna
cute.
put it where I can see it because it makes me happy. I never put it on the fridge.
Aw, it's so
So
cute, little
my little
mini.
baguette.
Oh,
But
love it.
that's my vibes. So
Cute.
that's been like my like rabbit hole of things that have gone down since we haven't chatted. I was like, I have to tell her about my slime. I was like so excited.
I feel like that'll be just like a good cozy activity of just like de-stress with
Right?
your slime.
That's what it's supposed to be. And I'm like, that's the one thing that would stress me out about it is like if you drop it. So I'm like, ooh, like I can't like drop it on the
Oh,
carpet or something. I'm like,
right.
that's how you
Yeah, I've
destroy
seen
carpet. But
people, they'll they'll do the DIY slime, and I don't know if it's just like rage baiting to get like engagement on their videos, but instead of just like
Mm.
making it in a bowl, they'll like dump all this stuff on their floor, like their not
Oh.
carpet, but like their hardwood floor, and just like mix it on the floor. And I'm
Ew.
like,
Hope you clean that floor. That's nasty.
yeah, I don't know. It just seems like we're just trying to get comments and stuff. But if you hear on
Yeah.
Slam or you get some, please keep us updated. I'm very curious
I
on this
will.
journey for you.
I will. I've been looking up a lot of it, but there's just like, oh my word, there's so many. There's so many types of slime and so many companies that have slime. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know. This feels like a lot of options to pick
Yeah.
from. So I just haven't picked from any of them. I just keep watching all the scoopabilities and it's like the schlop or whatever that word is, where it's just
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
it's
it's
like,
such good ASMR. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm just like, that's what I've been doing.
Well, do you want to tell everyone about our theme for this week?
Yes, if you are watching, there is a hint on screen and has been on screen for a while. But today, in the blanket for it, we are counting down actually our top 5 favorite Friends episodes. We are counting down from 5, and then
Hmm.
I have a couple extra fun bonuses, and you have a couple extra fun bonuses. So we'll talk about that. But before we get into it, I'd love to know your backstory of watching
Yeah, I was
Friends.
gonna ask you for yours.
Yeah.
I this was one that I never fully watched when it was first airing. I just would randomly catch episodes if it was on. I like have I don't think this was necessarily the first time I watched it, but I have this distinct memory. I don't know if I've talked about this part on the podcast before, but I took ballet lessons like my entire life. And there was this one girl, she and I would like carpool a lot to our lessons. And I remember in her, because her parents had this like giant minivan, and her parents had this like little portable TV that was probably like this big. And
What?
sometimes we would watch like Friends episodes on it. And I'm like,
How
that's
cute.
so 90s watching Friends on a portable TV. Like, oh my gosh.
I love it. That's so cool.
But I think I just kind of started. I don't know if I collected the seasons like I did with Gilmore Girls. It was just kind of like I grew over time. I think I did get like a box set, maybe from Half Price Books or something, or maybe Amazon. But I do have them all on DVD, and then have done a few all the way through rewatches. But it's been a few years since I've actually watched it. But I know you're like currently watching it, recently rewatched it. I can't remember.
Yeah. I so my history was watching the show. I don't know why, but I think I just like knew it was such a big phenomenon, whatever that
Hmm.
word is, at the time. And but I was a little I think honestly, I was just in like early Gilmore Girls phase of things while Friends was
Well,
on.
they were competing. They were like at the same time. So
Yeah.
it was hard. You couldn't really watch both.
Yeah, I was definitely picking Gilmore Girls, but I knew that the last episode of Friends was coming on, so I watched the last episode. Was the first ever episode I watched of the whole show.
Oh,
I had no
whoa.
idea what was going on. I just was like, I know this is something. Or like the last Seinfeld episode, the last XYZ episode that's just like
Speaking
huge.
of which, both Seinfeld and Friends, I learned recently that they actually aired the like series finale in Times Square, like
I didn't know they
on
did that
all
with
of those things.
Friends.
Like, can you imagine watching like you got off the plane or I got off the plane in Times
Oh,
Square?
all
Like,
of Times Square just like explodes.
right?
Like,
Like, what an
wow, that's so
experience.
cool. I know that would be wild. So I was just in my little house by myself watching. um, but I did watch that. But then I had like no memory of any of these characters. I knew nothing about it. I just knew that it was like an important thing in TV history, so I did it. And then years and years later, I started watching through it. I think I just like kind of like caught episodes as they went,
Right.
and then I watched all the way through it. And I've watched all the way through it a few times, but not enough to remember every single detail of episodes. So if you are that cozy detective that knows all the details, please leave comments because I'm sure that I'm gonna miss them, just to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I now am rewatching it because I started like finding the DVD sets at Goodwill's. And so I've just been buying them when I find them. And it's crazy
Yeah.
too because on the DVDs, I think it's because of commercials and things like that on TV, but some of the DVDs versus the TV or whatever version of things are different. So like some of the DVDs have like an extra scene or like the scene is longer. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's
I
crazy.
know.
So
I haven't
I've been doing
watched
that.
I haven't watched it on DVD in a long time. Because it used to be on Netflix for a while, and that's where I did a lot of
Yeah.
my rewatches. And now it's on, well, it's not called HBO anymore, but it's on Max HBO. And I don't know if they've added back in those deleted extended scenes because I
Mm.
haven't watched it in years. I did watch. Did you see the reunion that they did like over, I don't know, what was that, 2021, 22 or something?
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
I didn't again, I feel like I saw the Instagram clips of it,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't sit down and watch it on because I'm sure it was on one of those streaming services that I probably don't have. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it
was
was
it good?
it was pretty good. I'm trying to remember if it was like during like COVID lockdown or if it was like just after, because I think it
It
was
was somewhere
around that
around there.
time. And it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just kind of one of those nice of like, oh, this is a nice little treat because we haven't gotten a lot
Yeah.
of new shows. And it was really sweet and special. And just kind of, knowing a few years later we'd lose Matthew
Yeah.
Perry. And so they got to have that before he passed, which I think was really special.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of fun getting to return to memories that they had. I think there were times where it was definitely a little more hokey, like, but that's what
Yeah.
Friends is. Like it's very cheesy,
Yeah.
corny. So I
Yeah.
think it's a cute reunion. I think it's worthwhile if you've never watched it and you were a fan of the show.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to find that somewhere. I feel like even in prepping for this, I've never been good at remembering the Friends episode names. And so I
Mm.
had to look through and try to find them for my favorites and see like which is which. But should we oh wait, actually I have a couple more questions. Should we do that
Ooh,
after or should we do that before?
we can do it maybe before, and then if we're having more questions after, this is our own podcast. We can make the flow go as
That's
we
true.
want.
That is true. Okay, so one of my questions before then is do you have a favorite character?
I do, and I'm very curious. I I have like obviously of the six, one that's like my favorite, and then if I had to pick like, oh, a side character that I really enjoy, like I wouldn't say they're my favorite, but I do like their dynamic and what they bring to the show. But my favorite of like the core six, I think, is Monica.
Ah,
And
nice.
I think I just relate to her in a lot of ways. Obviously, like the cooking part of it. I'm not obviously as bad as she is, but I am very competitive. And so
Mm.
there's a couple of episodes on my list that are high up because of that. And I think I really just like her relationship with all of like each of the six. I think she has such a good relationship with, like, I love how she kind of takes Rachel in at the beginning and really like kind of introduces her to this world of being an adult.
Yeah.
I think she's a really good sibling to Ross, and I love their dynamic a lot of the time. Obviously, I love her and Chandler, but I also think like even her friendship with Phoebe and with Joey, I don't know. I feel like she gets Phoebe a lot better than maybe some of the other characters do some of the time. And I always like to say that Joey and Monica also feel like a different version of siblings. Like obviously her and Ross are, but there's a little sibling dynamic I think between Monica and Joey. But what about
Yeah.
you? What's your favorite?
My favorite is Chandler. I love him
Oh,
so
perfect
much.
for us.
He's my favorite. I love the humor aspect of it. I love that a lot of it. I feel like maybe in prepping for this, I started getting all of, again, Instagram just hears you or whatever it is, but I started getting a lot of like the behind the scenes. And there's a lot of scenes where I don't know if it's a lot, but in a couple of the clips that I saw, there were scenes where because they filmed in front of the live studio audience where if
Hmm.
they didn't get the laugh they wanted from the line, especially if it was Chandler's line, because he had a lot of those like really good funny lines,
Yeah.
they would be like, well, what does Matthew think? And I'm like, that's so cool that like they would go to Matthew Perry and be like, okay, well, what feels right for Chandler to say? And then kind of like
Yeah.
brainstorm with him. And I feel like knowing that a lot of Chandler is Matthew and a lot of Matthew, I would presume, is Chandler
Hmm.
is just a really good dynamic. I love the best friend brother dynamic of that. I
Yeah.
love the obviously Chandler and Monica, which will reflect in my picks. But I think Chandler and Phoebe is funny. Chandler and Monica have a really good moments. I love that they live across the hall, which is like kind of a all of them thing, minus Ross.
Yeah.
But I just think that that's I think personally, I think the reason the show is so long lasting and such a big hit at the time is because I mean, who doesn't want that to live across the hall
From
from
your best
your closest
friends.
friends in
Mhm.
your 20s, figuring out something in like the big city, like well, not the biggest city, but like I thinking about the United States for sure. I would
Yeah.
minus like Los Angeles, but um yeah, I just think that the dynamic of the show and having that place that you can go to, kind of similar to like the Cheers, where they have that third place type of deal,
Yeah.
is really fun. One of the other random facts is that at the WB is also where that was filmed. So you can, when you're visiting Stars Hollow, you can also visit Central Park, which is fun.
Cute. Yeah. I think, yeah, just kind of thinking of the long lasting and why so many people resonated with it. I think obviously if you grew up around the same age as them, and obviously we're
Oh, I
like, we're, you know, a decade or so behind them, but I think no matter when you get to that point of being in your 20s, I think there's relatability of just trying to figure out life and,
yeah,
you know, friendship, jobs, relationships. And obviously, people may connect to it in different ways. You know, if
yeah,
you know, maybe look a little differently than the core six do, or if you don't live in a big city. But I think there are elements that you can connect to, not necessarily
yeah.
just that time in your life, but in other big chapters, there's relatability there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny too because even in their ages, they're different. And I feel like if between season 1 and like 3, they end up swapping around Ross's age. Because at first he's
Yeah.
like, I think he's older and then he ends up being younger or something like that. But I just think, especially in your 20s, it feels, at least it felt for me, like such not tumultuous in a bad time, but you're just trying to figure out like, okay, what is adulthood? What does that look
Right.
like? Like, how do you be an adult? How do you have a career? Like, when do you get the career? Am I supposed to like do for the Rachel side of things, like go do coffee forever? I don't want to do coffee forever. I want to
Yeah.
be in this industry. And I just think that's where a lot of that relatability and just figuring stuff out with your friends. And like, if you want to get married, what's the longing of that look like? If you want to have kids, what's the longing of that look like? Or I like that Ross has a kid already. And then you're like, okay, well, he has a kid and you're like, he's been divorced. And what does that look like? And yeah, I like it. I think it's very
Yeah.
fun. Should we start our countdown?
Yes. Are we going at 5 down to 1?
I think so. That's a fun way to do it. And then we have some honorable mentions too.
Yes. Do you
Do you want
want
to go
to
first?
I was going to ask if
I
you
know you
wanted
first.
to.
I'm excited.
All right, I can go first. So, my fifth favorite episode, and again, this was kind of hard, especially since I haven't watched it in a while, but this was just kind of off the top of my head, gut feeling. So, my fifth favorite is from season 6, episode 10, the one with the routine.
Oh,
So
okay.
this
I
one
don't remember that one.
is it's a kind of a Christmas slash New Year's episode. So it takes place like during Christmas or just before Christmas. But so this is when Joey is living with that model Janine,
Oh yeah.
and she gets a gig on Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve. And so Monica and Ross freak out because they grew up watching this special every year. So they're like, oh my God, we have to go. So they beg to join the taping
So
and they
cute.
want to get on camera so bad. So they bust out their middle school talent show routine. And I love it. It's just like that dance sequence to me is so iconic of Friends and just like their sibling dynamic because like no one else really gets them and they're very just like weird kind of, but they love each other so well. And as someone else who has a very close kind of weird relationship with my sister, I don't know, I feel like I can relate to that in a little bit.
Yeah, siblings.
And
So
then
fun.
meanwhile, Chandler, Phoebe, and Rachel are searching the apartment for their Christmas presents because Monica's hidden them. And I just also like love their little antics of trying to find them.
That's so fun. I know, man. I need to. We're on our rewatch. We're on season 3,
Hmm.
4, somewhere in there. But I'm excited to get to some of the later seasons. I think in general, I might like seasons 2 through 4 the best. Like that might be my most rewatched seasons,
Yeah, I
but
definitely
there's
like the
some,
earlier ones. This is actually
yeah.
on my list. This number 5 is the like latest in the series. I'll go. It's a little bit of a spoiler, but
Oh,
all of
oh,
mine are
interesting.
earlier.
Ooh, okay. Well, mine, I was actually kind of surprised at this, but I don't think I have any season 1. I have all the way up to season 10. So
Okay.
my fifth favorite episode is the one with Princess Consuela. I love it. It's the one where Phoebe is trying to figure out if she should change her name, and then she realizes you could change your name to anything. It could be anything you want. And then I think just Paul Rudd is so great in that. I think his
Yeah.
character is fantastic. Oh, actually, we didn't say our favorite sides.
That
He's my
was
favorite
mine.
side
Yeah.
character. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna as soon as you mentioned the episode, I was like, "Oh, we didn't do the side characters."
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love that he's able to fit in that
Yeah.
late in the show to this very tight-knit group. He gets Phoebe. No one else
Yep.
relationship wise has been able to understand Phoebe, and I think they just created the perfect character for her to end up with.
Yep.
So I yeah, and who doesn't love Paul Rudd?
I know. He's just he yeah, that the fact that he can fit into that is mind-boggling. There's a few other characters that they had her with for a while. There's the one again, this is where I'm gonna start forgetting names, but he was the scientist
Oh,
that moved
Dave
to
or David?
I don't remember. I'm
Yeah,
sure
he goes to
someone does.
Minsk, Russia.
There you go, there you go. But I felt like he was okay for a while, but, like, in the way now being able to compare between Mike and him, which is not a great thing to do in real life, but this is fake. So, um, I feel like Mike is definitely the favorite, definitely the one
Yeah,
that she should have ended up with. They make really good sense together. They're very funny together. And again, the fact that he can blend in even with the guys is
yeah.
wild to
Is
me.
that
But
the episode? I don't know if this is the one that you're referring to, but the scene where he plays the, like, air piano.
oh
I
yeah, I
just
don't know
It's
if
one
that's
of
in
my
this
favorite moments
episode.
of his.
Yeah, that is a good one. Um, that I would say that character and that connection is why this is my fifth favorite episode because I have potentially a hot take. I don't know if it's a hot take anymore, but it was a
Ooh.
few years ago. Is that also in this episode, Ross and Rachel are trying to figure out their careers and they're kind of the phrasing says setting their eyes on their career profession. And so I feel like personally, I never super loved them as a character after the breakup. I did at the beginning. I thought it
Yeah,
was so sweet, but to have characters get together, break up and get together and break up and hard feelings and
so
harsh words
much.
and it
Yeah.
was a
I just
lot. Like they weren't
I
together for like 7 seasons. Like guys.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think there's good moments with Ross, but
Yeah.
overall, I don't super like he's my least
Mm.
favorite of the 6, and kind of the same thing with, like, Luke and Lorelai. Like, I love the will
Mm.
they, won't they, at least at the beginning for them. It obviously went on for the entire show with Ross and
Yeah.
Rachel. Um, but yeah, when I was younger, I think first watching it, because that's like kind of what you're told to root for. But then when you really
Yeah.
like sit back and think on it, I'm like, he treated her so bad a lot of the time.
Yeah. They had a pretty weird relationship and pretty I guess there's some aspect of it that could be just like their ages or their um I don't know what it was, but they just were pretty immature in their relationship a lot of the time, I
Yeah.
felt like. Um now at the I mean this is obviously spoilers, but at the end seeing that at least come back around I felt like was good because you're like, okay, now I'm just gonna like choose to believe that they will stay together. But I don't know. It just wasn't my
Except
favorite
I
couple.
kind of wish she would have gotten to go to Paris. Like, she was so
Yeah.
excited about that
She
job.
just
And I'm
gone
like,
with
you
her.
turn right. It kind of reminded me of like in Boy Meets World where she turns down Yale for Corey. And I'm just like, I need these women to
Mm.
stop turning down their dreams for mediocre men.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting too because another one of the clips that I saw on Instagram was it was David and well, I can't think of her name. I can't think of the actress name for Phoebe, but they're sitting on the couch in Central Park and they're doing their lines back and forth and he messes up his line and he just goes, "Poor Ross." Like and it was just like I thought that was so funny because even David gets that like Ross is kind of a weirdo and he's
Yeah.
a
Wah,
lovable
wah.
weirdo, but like this poor guy, what's going on with him?
Yeah.
So That is my 5th favorite episode
Cute.
of Friends.
So my fourth favorite is season
Ooh.
5, episode 14, the one where everyone finds out.
That's so good.
And that
Love
I
that
think
one.
would be a good one just in talking about our favorite characters. So obviously Monica and Chandler are my favorite couple on the
Me
show.
too.
And for anyone who may not know based on the title, but this is where the other characters all kind of figure out that they're together, and there's this like game, and the like they don't know, we know, they know.
Yeah. So
And
good.
like Phoebe is like trying to flirt with Chandler, and there's this like super awkward, but
My eyes,
it's so
my
fun.
eyes.
Yeah. So that one's just like a very fun episode, but I think because Monica and Chandler get to like fully be in their relationships as
Yeah.
themselves, very authentic, and like the group knows, and that just like I love how happy that they are and
Yeah.
supportive of the relationship. So that is why it's on my list.
Love it. That was one of my honorable mentions for sure. It
Cute.
was kind of hard to pick the countdown of this because a
There's
lot of
so
these,
many episodes.
yeah, and kind of like we talked about with Gilmore Girls, there potentially, I don't know, I'd have to rewatch a lot of these episodes to make sure, but potentially in this show as well, there's parts of it where like the Princess Consuelo, like I love that part of it,
Hmm.
but then I don't love that part of it. So it's like
Yeah.
there's parts of each episode of this. So my fourth favorite is the one that could have been. There's a part 1 and a part 2 to this. The
Yeah.
reason I like this episode a lot is because you kind of see how much the friendship of these 6 people, like being the close friends that we know them as, really has changed them as people and made them better people. I think it's hilarious that Phoebe is like crazy obsessed with work, and it's like
Yeah.
that doesn't feel like her at all. It feels so off. I
Oh,
love that Chandler. Yeah.
really fun fact about that storyline in that episode.
Oh,
This was years and years and years ago. I went to a friend's bar trivia with a couple of my friends,
nice.
and we missed a question related to that. And it's one of those things where
Oh.
once you learn the answer, you'll never forget. And it was, who is Phoebe working for in that episode? And it's Merrill Lynch. It's like
Oh.
a big banking firm,
Yeah.
but we
See, I
had
would have
no
not known that.
idea.
No,
And
I had
so
no
we were
idea.
just like bummed we missed it. So that's one that I will never forget.
That's so funny. But yeah, I don't know. I like seeing the possibilities of things if they weren't. And I think it proves even more so why their relationships with each other as friends, like
Yeah.
romantically, all of it is just really important to them as people. And if I'm remembering this correctly, I'm almost positive that I am, but I didn't really read the synopsis. I just looked at the photos. I'm like, oh yeah, that episode. I'm almost positive that Chandler and Monica still get together, right? I feel like
Yeah.
that's in the second, because this is a two-parter, but I
Yeah.
like that too, that like no matter what time period they would actually still get together, which makes me happy. But the main reason I like it is because you see how much their relationships really impact each other for the good. So
Yeah.
that's
I
my
always
fourth
find
favorite.
those like alternate universe episodes of shows to be
Yeah.
interesting because like they
Yeah.
did that on Grey's Anatomy
Mm.
once. And
Ooh, I don't remember that.
yeah, I can't remember what season it was in. I think it was I can't remember if it was before or after the plane. Oh, it was before the plane crash because Mark and Lexi are still in it. Spoilers for Grace, but
Mm. That's fine.
it's been happened
We've
for a
all seen those
while.
clips too. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so like Lexi is like a homeless drug addict, and like
Whoa.
Owen Hunt is married to Callie Torres, and it's just like
Whoa.
Mark,
So different.
yeah, Derek and Addison are still together, and yeah, it's a weird episode, but it's
Whoa.
just one of those funds where like I'm kind of reading fan fiction.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put that. Yeah, 100%. So I just think that those are like, for the same
Yeah,
reasons, those are really funny and
yeah,
interesting
it's a good
episodes. So
episode
that's
for
my
sure.
fourth. What's your
Love
third
it.
favorite?
Mine is a season 3. My next two are actually from season 3, but this one is episode 9, the one with the football.
Oh, interesting. Nice.
Yeah, and we didn't really
That's a good
say
one.
this, but the reason that we're talking about this this topic this week is that it's coming up to Thanksgiving, and obviously Thanksgiving is a big part of Friends. They do a Thanksgiving themed episode every season, and there was a span of time because like both of our parents used to work every Thanksgiving, so my sister and I would just be the two of us at the house. Sometimes we would make like a meal and stuff, but we would like go through and watch like all of the
Yeah.
Thanksgiving episodes of Friends and then a deep fried Korean Thanksgiving after that.
Nice.
But out of all of the Thanksgiving episodes, this one's my favorite. And it's just one of my favorites overall. But they have this like big football tournament. And like I mentioned, with Monica being very competitive. So she and Ross, and it's again their sibling dynamic, but they are competing for the Geller Cup, which is from their childhood, and it is this like ugly troll doll
So
that's
ugly.
like attached to a piece of like plywood. So they play it, and I also really like Rachel's storyline in this episode
Oh yeah.
because like no one believes in her. She's like,
Yeah.
they're like, you don't know how to play football, you're not gonna do well, and she ends up, like scoring the goal at the end. And so I just kind of love her. She got to prove them all wrong and be like, no, I
Yeah, she
can
gets the
do
winning
it.
touchdown. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so
So
and there's a lot of funny whatever it's called when like what is that called when they have music and they're just like doing actions, but they're not
oh,
having
like
words.
it's like a
Montage.
montage.
Montage,
Mm-hmm.
that's the word. I was like, my brain will get there. But that's a really funny montage in that too, where they're like pulling her
And
and
like
then she's
Phoebe like shows up
oh
to her
yeah.
shirt. And yeah, I like
Like,
the Chandler and Joey storyline where they're like both like
yeah, that
competing
one
over this girl. And yeah, it's a fun episode.
that's so funny. I mine's also Thanksgiving episode.
Ooh.
So, well, I don't think I like him as a person. The one with the rumor, I really like with Brad Pitt because
Mm,
I think it's just hilarious.
all the
I think,
backstory, yeah.
yeah, it's a funny backstory. I think it's a really while I don't love the like negative sides of it, like the funny sides of the Ross and Rachel, I think are funny where they're like they actually have this like pact from when they were kids to like never like hang out with her or whatever it is. And it's like, oh, he actually has like a baby with her. And it's funny because it's a later season, which is
Yeah.
interesting that some of these are in the later seasons for me because again, I would say this isn't a wild rewatch. Also random is I'm pretty sure this actually, speaking of Korean Thanksgiving, this might be the same top, but this is one of those tops I'm almost positive that Rachel wears that also Lorelai wears, but Lorelai wears it in black, Rachel wears it in
Mm.
white. I'm almost positive. Correct me, Cozy Detectives, if that's wrong. But I've seen it on some of those, like when you like find the closet of the character. So that's one of those
Yeah.
outfits I think crosses over between the two shows because it was around the same time. Actually, the Phoebe outfit in this might do that too. Now that I'm seeing that photo, I just have the photos up on the side to remind me of the episode.
Cute.
I just think, yeah, I think the Thanksgiving episodes for me are ones that stick out a lot. And there's a Christmas one that sticks out a lot, but that's one of my honorable mentions. But
Yeah, I wonder if we have the same Christmas honorable mention because I have one on my list as well.
yeah. Ooh, exciting. Okay, what's your second?
Getting up there. So my number two is, like I said, another season three,
Mm,
episode two, the one where no one's ready.
that's a good one. Yeah.
So this episode um, is like the only one that takes place like minute per minute, and the entire episode takes place within Monica and Rachel's apartment. So Ross has this big award ceremony that they're going to, and he's upset because they have to leave at a certain time, and like the title says, no one is ready. And so there's just like all these different antics, like Joey ends up putting on all of Chandler's clothes,
Yeah.
and you have the iconic
Iconic.
line, "Can I be wearing any more
Yeah,
clothes?"
it's so good.
And then there's also like Monica trying to call
Oh,
into Richard's
Richard.
voicemail, and she's like, "I'm
Yeah.
crazy."
Oh, yeah.
And this is like a before like all of the Ross and Rachel stuff like go
Yeah.
like go awry. They have some really cute moments in this episode, but also like when she comes out in the robe and is like, "I'm not going." But
Mhm.
also, I think this is the episode of the "You drink the fat."
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, because he would have done that. Yeah, yeah. I think so. Almost
Yeah.
positive. That's a good one.
So yeah.
Mine is a season 4,
Ooh.
episode 12. I actually have the season for this. I don't know why I have this one, but it's the one with the embryos, and I wouldn't have
That's
named it
my
that. That's your one?
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so
It's so good.
good.
Yeah.
It's the Switch Apartment episode. It's fantastic. There is the quiz. And what is it? Is it Miss Chahandler Bong?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, it's iconic. It's hilarious. It's not something that, at least when I watched it, I saw coming of them ever switching apartments, because like why would they? Like are
Right.
Lorelai and Babette supposed to switch houses? Like I don't think so. But it's just hilarious. The guys come in writing that, what is that? Is that a
The
dog?
dog,
Probably.
which that actually belonged to Jennifer Aniston in real life.
What?
Yeah.
That's huge. Just have it in your house? What are you doing
Yeah.
that? Yes, I think it's hilarious. I think it's so good. Why do you love the episode?
Monica for sure, when she's
Mm.
like
No!
so yeah, and it's funny too. So I mentioned the trivia. So our team name was "We're so good at lightning rounds" because of that line in that
Nice.
episode.
Nice.
And yeah, I just like how competitive she gets and just like all of the little questions. And like there's a moment with talking, they're like guessing the grandmother's name, and he's like, I'm shooting with Althea, and then it's like Althea is correct, nice shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just love that dynamic. And then like the scene where Rachel's like with her hand and she's
Oh, yeah.
like shaking, and then how the girls end up losing, and then they keep the apartments for like several episodes
Quite
after
a
that.
while, yeah.
And then it's so funny because the episode title is because that's where Phoebe's starting the process of being the surrogate for her brother. So that's always funny because I never associate that episode with that.
Me neither. That's why I was so
Um,
confused on the name. I was like, why is this popping up on stuff when I was trying to research? And I was like,
yeah, but
oh,
that episode is just so fun. It's that dynamic, but it does make me a little sad that Phoebe is not there for all of that.
yeah.
Like I think if I could change it, like the embryos plot would just be in a different episode, because I know I'm really sad that she's not part of this crazy like
Yeah.
trivia bet that the group has going on.
Yeah, I am at the part in the rewatch when they're in London, and I was like,
Mm.
okay, I have to look this up. Apparently, from my research, is that the actress who played Phoebe was actually
Yeah,
pregnant.
Lisa
And I'm like,
Kudrow.
okay,
Mhm.
Lisa Good, there's her name. I was like, I can't find it. Because I was like, why wouldn't she also get to go to London? I'm like, that would be so sad. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. She
Yeah.
probably was having a kiddo, so that makes sense to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I also was convinced for years that she wasn't actually pregnant, because I was like, I don't know. I guess she just like was such a pretty pregnant lady. I was like, oh, I had no idea. I thought it was just like a fake belly the whole time, but no,
Yeah.
it's her. But
What's
yes,
your
that's
number one?
my number one is, I'm cheating on this. So it's the one with the proposal, part 1 and 2. Oh, just give me that.
It counts.
Just go with me.
It's a whole episode.
Yeah, it's the character arc storyline of that kind of one.
Yeah.
But I really like it. Chandler and Monica are my favorite. I love that they're figuring it out. I love, it's interesting because I actually have no recollection particularly of their wedding in it. I think it's because I think I get that wedding confused with Phoebe's wedding when I'm thinking back on it. But the proposal really sticks out to me because I just think it's really sweet. I think it's interesting to see like the human dynamics of feeling insecure about something, but not like taking it out on somebody,
Yeah.
which is where I feel like sometimes Ross and Rachel can do, is they can feel insecure and then take it out on each other.
Yeah.
I think I really like the Richard plot line in it because I feel like it proves, maybe even to the audience, I don't know, but like he is not her second choice. He's her first choice. And I
Mhm.
feel like that's just a really sweet thing to solidify. And like, even if Richard, like maybe years and years ago, if he had made a different choice, but him making a different choice now doesn't make a difference between her and Chandler,
Yeah.
between Monica and Chandler.
Yeah.
So I think it's very sweet. I like that she proposes. I felt like when I first watched it, I was so confused what was going to go on because I was like, what's going to happen? Who's going to propose? Where's it going
Yeah.
to go down? And it's a teary episode, but it's a really sweet one. And I think it's a really good one, obviously, for their relationship in multiple ways. But
Yeah, and I like all the candles, and it's just like them in the
yeah,
apartment. So it's like
very
it's a really
thoughtful.
sweet proposal. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my number one favorite.
Wow, we only had one
Ah,
overlap.
I know. So a lot of our honorable mentions are overlap. So for sure, I'm sure
Yeah.
like going back and forth. What's one of your honorable mentions that we
I
haven't talked
have a couple different Christmassy ones. So
about?
I
Ooh.
have one of my honorable mentions was for a specific scene, and it's the one with the resolutions with Ross and his
Mm.
leather pants.
Yep, yep, that one's on there for me.
That one I could watch. Every time I watch it, I will like laugh out loud at that and just like how goofy is and like they made a paste.
Yeah, the physical comedy of that is so good. I have
Yeah.
that one, and I also have the one where Ross is fine, where he's like, "I'm fine, I'm
Oh,
fine.
yeah, the
I don't
whole,
know why it's
like,
coming out all squeaky." It's so
"I'll
good.
make fajitas."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's a
I
good
just
one.
think he plays that character so good. It's so hilarious.
Yeah.
I have the one where Phoebe gets married as well, because I just
Oh,
think that
yeah.
I really like
So
them.
sweet.
I
In the
think they would have been a
snow.
yeah, they would have been a higher well, I don't know. Maybe they're my second favorite couple because they're just a healthier couple than Ross and Rachel in a lot of parts.
Yeah,
But I feel like we didn't get to see a lot of them, but that's why they
that's
were my
fair.
fifth and then honorable mention.
Yeah, I also, have another the holiday armadillo
I have that
one.
one too,
Yeah,
yeah.
and when you said you had a Christmas one, I was like, "It has to be holiday armadillo."
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And
so
kind of
good.
in tandem with that, I also have the one with the Halloween party. Like, anytime Ross is in a
Mm,
goofy costume.
so good.
Um, yeah, I like all of their costumes just, like, fit their characters so well.
Yeah.
Like, Chandler and the bunny
The
is so
Easter bunny, that's what
funny.
I was thinking of.
Yeah,
That's a great blooper too.
yeah.
I I have a favorite moment in the show, which I
Mhm.
think is probably a lot of people's favorite, but it's the pivot scene
Yeah.
because that's like that and then the Steve Carell, The Office blooper where it's like, "It folds right into the wall." Those are my 2 favorite bloopers. They don't hit as much as they used to back in the day because I just
Mhm.
rewatched them, but those are yeah, that's my favorite moment in the show because it's just hilarious and it's mainly the blooper that's the hilarious moment. But yeah, those are all my I think those are all my favorites.
Yeah.
The one where everyone finds out was on my list too.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if I could pinpoint a favorite moment, but I
mm,
do have um a memory of when I was the night before I was moving out of a one of my apartments. I got to the series finale like just in that rewatch, and that
whoa.
scene where it shows like the whole like empty apartment and all of their
Oh,
keys at the end, I was like, and I'm moving tomorrow, so it's just like really
oh
emotional.
no. Oh god.
But yeah,
That would have got
I just love that scene of the empty apartments and just like,
yeah.
but also like, oh, you want to get coffee, like we're still gonna be in each other's lives even if we're all kind of going
Yeah.
to different places.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like out of a lot of shows that I've seen, I feel like that's a really good ending in that
Hmm.
it gives a lot of closure for different storylines. It opens a lot of other things up for new seasons in their future as characters. Um, I feel like it's a really good ending to a
Hmm.
show.
Agreed.
Whereas I don't know a lot of other endings because again, I don't love ending shows, but there's been quite a few other shows where I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's my favorite ending, but
Yeah.
yeah.
How I Met Your Mother is probably because it's a show
Ugh.
that gets compared to Friends in a lot
Mm.
of ways. And that has one of my least favorite endings to a show ever.
Yes, I that maybe hot take, maybe not hot take, but I honestly can't rewatch the show because of how it ended, where I felt like they let us up the whole time,
Yeah.
the
The
whole
whole
time, the
time.
whole
Mrs.
time.
Doubtfire. Iconic.
Yeah. I'm glad that you got that reference because I was like, sometimes I
Of
say references to some
course.
random things.
She
I'm
was
like,
one of
what
my
is
favorite, or it was one of my favorite dads.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, I was like, really? Really? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a
But
hard
anyway,
one.
and now getting back to our friends ish episode. I have one hair just hanging out in the middle of nowhere. That's fine. What is your 2% cozy from this week?
I'm really excited to talk about this one. So I did this yesterday.
Mm.
I went to a cooking class in my area and we did
Oh,
a macaron, like a French macaron baking class.
cool. Like it's the sandwich ones or it's the white
Yeah,
fluff ones?
the
Okay.
sandwich like French cookies
Ooh.
because I have tried so many times and like I can bake fairly well.
Yeah, yeah.
I have always
Those are
struggled.
hard.
Yes, I've always struggled. I've never been able to get it right. And I don't know if I could get it right on my own because obviously I had the instructor there, but hopefully I learned some tips and tricks to be successful in the future. But we did
Mm.
two flavors and they were both autumnal flavored. So one was a spiced pumpkin macaron with like a brandy and pumpkin buttercream. And then
Yum.
the other one was like a pecan pie flavored when we made this pecan caramel filling.
Mm.
And it was, both of them were so, so good.
Oh my gosh, yum. Was it a sur la table
Hmm.
class? I've always wanted to
Yeah.
do one of those. I've never
Yes.
done
Yeah. You
them.
should
Ooh.
do, they do the macaron one in your, at your location. You should go.
Ooh, I'm just gonna type that into the Googles so that I
Sponsor
look it
Sur
up.
La Table,
Oh
please,
my word, that'd
please
be
sponsor us.
amazing. That would be
That would
amazing.
be like a dream sponsorship for sure.
Honestly. Yeah, that's so fun. How many did you get to take them home with you? Did you end up eating them all there?
Yeah, yeah, so there was 5 of us that took the class, and it was kind of cool because, it was just 5 women and none of us, like, knew
Oh,
anyone
so
else,
you were
like,
the
it was
whole class.
yeah, there or it was just yeah, 5 of us, but we all came solo, so no one
Oh,
came with a friend or a family member or partner, like, it was just like, "I'm just
that's
gonna do this
fun.
for me." So it's kinda
Yeah.
nice that we all didn't know each other, and so there was a group of 2 and then a group of 3, and then my group, at the end, they were just, like, talking about kind of, like, why they did this class, and, like, one, her son just graduated from high school, so she was trying to find, like, new hobbies for herself. And then the other one lost her husband a few years ago. So she was trying to find things to bring her
Oh,
joy. And it was just kind of sweet because, like, their reasons kind of felt very much of the vibes of what we do with 2%. So
yeah.
it was just really kind of sweet hearing their stories.
Oh, I love that. That's so fun. Is there any particular tip that you can think of that you learned through that you're like, "Okay, well, I'll carry that with me."
That's a good question. I think probably a few. One that I always struggled with when I've read recipes for it, that when you make the batter for the shells or like the actual cookie part, they always describe it as in ribbons as the consistency. Like it, when you lift
Mm.
it out of the spatula, it should like fall down in ribbons. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? And so
Yeah.
just kind of getting to see what the consistency should
Mm.
look like, I think will help because the hard thing is if you over mix it, you can deflate too much air and then it won't rise and you don't get the little feet. So that I think was really helpful. And then just making sure that you let them completely dry before baking them so that they also don't like crumble and they rise correctly in the oven.
Yeah, that's a lot of steps. I every time I see somebody make those, I'm like, "Wow, that is
Yeah.
impressive."
And then the other one, this is kind of one of the first steps and something I never really thought to do, but our instructor told us to use a food processor to ground all of the dried ingredients. So even though like flour and all of that is already pretty fine, if you grind it, it gets even more fine and then you sift it. So just making
Mm.
sure that everything's like really uniform and is like fine as possible can help.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm not good at that. Every time I'm not gonna lie to you, every time someone's like, "Sift this," I'm like, "Nah."
Yeah,
Like,
most of the time I don't either, especially if it's like cookies or something, because I'm like, eh.
it'll be
But
fine.
for this,
Yeah.
everything has to be really precise. So,
Yes. Yes. I feel like any type of pastry specifically is really precise. I feel like it was one of my 2% quite a while back. It was that Stanley Tucci sandwich with the focaccia bread.
hmm.
I saw a recipe from that same lady who she did what was it? It was like a dessert focaccia where she traded
Ooh,
out some of like a little bit of a more sweet dough and then she added a jelly into it and then she made a glaze for the top. And I'm
ooh.
like, that sounds amazing. So that's on my list. But I feel like, yeah, like that's maybe a little more forgiving, but for something like a I don't know, especially anything French. I feel like it's like just
Yes.
follow the recipe. Like don't mess
But
with
that
it.
was kind of hard too because you get a printout of the recipe. I don't know if you've
Mm,
ever taken one of their
mm.
classes, but you always get like a paper copy of it. But she kept being like, oh, well, we'll do this instead of what the recipe says, or do this instead.
Oh.
And I'm like, I don't know if I didn't have it at the like to take notes. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to remember all the changes she said.
Yeah. Oh, that's hard. I wish she just printed off like her changes on the recipe
Yeah.
then. That, yeah, ooh, that's tricky. I'm excited to show you my
Yeah.
2%.
A
You
little
ready?
surprise.
It's just a surprise for you, but you've seen it. Yay!
Yay!
It's
So
the glasses. Larissa,
fun.
if you're listening, ASMR, speaking of just kidding. Um, but Larissa got me little bear glasses. They're very cute and
Love
they're
it.
colored. They are from Japan. I think they're vintage, right? They looked
Hmm.
like it when I got them, but they're very sweet. I have not used them yet, but they're going to be my hot cocoa glasses.
Yay.
I'm excited. There's
So
four of
fun.
them, but I
Hmm.
cleaned two of them, so that's what I brought up here.
Yeah, I was
But
like, I
they're
know
so
she's not
sweet.
going to necessarily need four glasses because I know it's just you and your husband. But I was like, well, if they have
I
friends
love them.
over, you can have a little cocoa
Yeah.
party. And
So
because, like, back when we did our like fall tips, I know you had talked
my
about
favorite
doing
thing.
like a cocoa bar or just like having friends
Yeah.
over for coffee and stuff.
Yes, yes. So it's very cute, very sweet. And I like the colors on it too. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but it's a glass, but then it has like the bears colored, the presents colored, the greenery is colored. So
Yeah.
very pretty. I'm not
I
sure if the dishwasher safe, so I've just been hand washing them because I felt like
Yeah,
I did
just
not
to be
trust them with
safe.
the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny. I There was two things that made me immediately think of you when I saw them. One was that there were teddy bears, and I know you
Cute.
had mentioned that you're in your teddy bear phase, or you've always loved teddy bears, but I know we've been talking about bears a lot. And then I know they kind of reminded me a little bit of those like anthropology slash world
Mm,
market glasses with the little like inlays.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, they do actually. I didn't think about that. Yeah, they're like the vintage version of that.
mhm.
But they're very pretty, and I'm excited to use them for Christmas. And they look pretty Christmassy in like a good way of like I'm excited, perfect season for them. Need to put up my tree, speaking of, but
Yeah.
I will make hot cocoa in
Yay,
these.
I'm so happy you love them.
I love
Which
them. I love
also, just as a side little extra bit about something you previously sent me, was that green vase that I
Oh,
showed. I found out recently that Abby Jimenez, who is the author of Yours Truly, has the same one on her bookshelf.
that is wild. You sent me that, and I was like, there is no way. I don't know how that happened, but
Yeah,
it's meant to be. Then
I know.
we're
I
meant to
saw it and I was like, yes, we're
have.
twins.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of 2% from us and our cozy detectives, back to you, Larissa.
Yes, I know. Now I'm like, oh, we're definitely doing some reporting.
I know. Let's go.
So I have two. We have Gray House B&B, who this is the person, Miles, who introduced me to the Good Witch from a few episodes back. So this is something I forgot to write it down to talk about in an episode, but they actually taught me how to do this. I didn't know you could, but they changed their Roku settings and wallpaper to have like a fall vibe,
Ooh,
which
I
I didn't
like
know
it.
you could change that because I only got a
Cool.
Roku within the last like few months or so. So was really excited
Nice.
to change that on my own TV because I think it's such a simple way of adding a new little cozy element as you change seasons. And then the other one I have for this week, M.E. May tried a new pear and apple cheese from Trader Joe's, which
Ooh,
sounds really good. I need to check for that. And they were eating that while watching their annual rewatch of Dan in Real Life.
I like that movie. I
I've
feel like,
never seen it.
oh, it's good. I have it on DVD. It's one of those where I actually even like the way that it's filmed, which I feel like I say about only like a few type of things, where
Hmm.
it's filmed. I don't know. I don't want to say the word nostalgic because I don't want it to feel like it's like the 90s, but I just feel like the thought put into the movie overall is really good, including the filming of it. But
Cute.
very fun. Oh, what good 2%. I feel like
Yeah.
both of those are like great examples again of 2%.
Yeah, something very simple. Obviously, like my class was a little more elaborate than just a 2%,
Which was
but
great. Yeah, again,
but
like,
yeah.
maybe you wouldn't think of it until doing this, or I wrote it down too because I'm like, "Oh, well, that's inspiring to me." Like, I can look
Yeah.
it up and see what's in my area because 'cause I'm sure that
Yeah,
there's classes all the time, so
for sure. Yeah, just fun little tidbits. But yeah,
yeah.
keep sending those in to us.
Please. You can send theirs in to us by 2 ways. You can email us, which will be in the description, and you could send us a DM on Instagram, and sometimes, if you're following closely enough, we put a little thing in the stories section where you can just submit them there really quick, and then we will
Yeah.
have them on file for you.
On the blanket fort
On the
files.
blanket fort files.
So speaking of Instagram, please be sure to follow us there at Blanket Fort Files Pod. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can check us out on YouTube because we're also a video podcast over there. We'd appreciate your feedback, so leave us a review because it does help us out. And be sure to join us in the Blanket Fort next week where we're going to be discussing some cozy travel tips.
I'm so excited to learn about the new areas, to explain our areas. Very fun, very cozy.